It's 8:45 at night. You started your toddler's bedtime routine an hour ago. An entire hour. Bath, pajamas, books, songs, water, one more book, another hug, checking for monsters, adjusting the nightlight, rearranging the stuffed animals. And your toddler is still not asleep. Actually, they're more wired now than they were at 8 o'clock. They're bouncing on the bed, asking for snacks, demanding you stay in the room, and you're so tired you could cry. You've tried everything the books say to do. You have a consistent routine. You do the same things every night. You're patient and calm and loving. You follow all the rules. And yet, here you are, night after night, spending 2 hours fighting a battle that shouldn't even exist. Your partner thinks you're doing too much. Your mom says you need to be firmer. The internet has 17 different opinions, and you're starting to wonder if your toddler just doesn't need sleep the way other kids do. But here's what nobody's telling you. The problem isn't your toddler. The problem isn't even your routine. The problem is that the bedtime routine advice you've been following is missing 3 critical pieces of information that sleep researchers have known for years. And once you understand these 3 things, everything changes. The fighting stops, the routine gets shorter, and your toddler actually wants to go to sleep. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly what sleep researchers know about toddler bedtimes that most parents never learn. And by tomorrow night, you're going to have a completely different experience at bedtime. So let's talk about what's really going on. Before we dive into the science, if your toddler fights bedtime every single night and you're exhausted, hit the like button and subscribe for more research-backed parenting advice. Drop "This is my life" in the comments if bedtime is a 2-hour battle at your house. Let's get into it. I see you. I see the parent who's read all the sleep books, who's created the perfect routine, who does bath at the same time, books in the same chair, songs in the same order, every single night. You've been told consistency is key, so you're consistent. You've been told routines help toddlers feel safe, so you've built a routine. You've been told to be patient and calm, so you stay patient even when your toddler asks for the 15th thing, and everyone keeps telling you to stick with it. Give it time. Be consistent. Don't give in. As if the problem is that you're not trying hard enough. But here's the truth. You're not doing anything wrong. Your routine isn't bad. Your toddler isn't defiant, and you haven't failed. The advice you've been following is incomplete. It's not wrong, exactly. It's just missing the pieces that actually make bedtime routines work. And once you understand what those pieces are, you're going to feel so much better. So let's talk about what's actually happening in your toddler's brain during that bedtime routine. Toddlers have what researchers call a biological sleep drive. That's the pressure that builds up in their body throughout the day that makes them feel tired. Think of it like hunger. The longer you go without eating, the hungrier you get. The longer your toddler is awake, the stronger their sleep drive becomes. But here's where it gets interesting. Toddlers also have a second system working at the same time. Their circadian rhythm. That's their internal clock that tells their body when to be alert and when to be sleepy. And these 2 systems, they have to work together. Your toddler needs both a strong sleep drive and a circadian dip into their sleep window for bedtime to go smoothly. Now imagine this. It's 7:30. Your toddler has been awake since 7 that morning. 12.5 hours. Their sleep drive is strong. They should be tired, right? But their circadian rhythm hasn't hit the sleep window yet. Their body isn't producing melatonin. And even though they have the sleep drive, their biology isn't ready for sleep. So what happens? You start the bedtime routine. Bath, books, songs. But their body is fighting you the entire time. They're getting more stimulated instead of more calm. They're asking for things, stalling, resisting. Not because they're being difficult, but because their circadian rhythm is saying, not yet. Research from the Sleep and Development Lab at the University of Colorado actually studied this. They measured melatonin levels in toddlers throughout the evening. And what they found was that most toddlers between 18 months and 3 years don't hit their biological sleep window until between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. Not 7. Not 6:30, 7:30 to 8:30. The American Academy of Pediatrics has also weighed in on this. They've found that trying to force sleep before a child's circadian rhythm is ready leads to longer bedtime routines, more bedtime resistance, and ironically, worse sleep quality overall. So that bedtime routine you're starting at 7, you might be starting it before your toddler's body is actually ready for sleep. And every minute you spend in that routine before they hit their sleep window is working against you. That's why the routine keeps getting longer. That's why they keep asking for one more thing. Their body isn't ready to shut down yet. So let me tell you the 3 things sleep researchers know that most parents don't. And I'm going to walk you through each one so you can completely transform your bedtime experience. The first thing researchers know: timing matters more than content. You've probably spent a lot of time thinking about what to include in your bedtime routine. Should you do bath every night? How many books? Which songs? And those things matter, sure, but they matter way less than when you do them. Let me tell you what happened with my own toddler, because I learned this the hard way. I had this beautiful bedtime routine: bath at 6:45, books at 7:15, songs at 7:30, bed at 7:45. 30 minutes of calm, consistent, loving routine. And it was a disaster. Every single night was a fight. She'd pop out of bed 17 times, asked for water, snacks, different pajamas, different stuffed animals. The routine would stretch to an hour, sometimes longer. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm following all the rules, I'm being consistent, I'm staying calm. Why isn't this working? Then I talked to a sleep researcher, and she asked me one question: what time does your daughter actually fall asleep? And I was like, well, usually around 9 or 9:15. And she was like, okay, so her body is telling you her sleep window is around 8:30 to 9 p.m. And you're trying to start the routine at 6:45. You're working against her biology for over an hour. That moment changed everything for me, because I realized I was trying to force my daughter to sleep an hour before her body was ready. And of course, she was fighting it. Of course, the routine kept getting longer. I was starting too early. So here's what the research shows. For most toddlers, the biological sleep window is between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. Some toddlers have an earlier window, around 7. Some have a later window, around 9. But the average is 7:30 to 8:30. And if you start your routine too early, before they hit that window, you're essentially asking their body to do something it's not ready to do. And toddlers, bless them, they can't just lie there and force themselves to sleep. So they resist, they stall, they ask for things. Not because they're being manipulative, but because their body is like, hey, I'm not sleepy yet, why are we doing this? The second thing researchers know: shorter routines work better than longer ones. I know. You've been told that bedtime routines should be long and involved, that you need to spend quality time with your toddler before bed, that the routine helps them transition from awake to asleep. And there's truth to that. Toddlers do need a transition, but here's what research actually shows. The optimal bedtime routine length is 15 to 30 minutes. Not an hour, not 90 minutes. 15 to 30 minutes. When bedtime routines go longer than 30 minutes, several things happen. First, you start to overshoot the sleep window. Remember, your toddler has a biological window when their body is ready for sleep. If you spend 45 minutes on the routine, you might push past that window. And once you miss it, their body releases cortisol, their stress hormone. And cortisol is the enemy of sleep. Second, long routines teach toddlers that bedtime is negotiable. Every extra book, every additional song, every one more thing reinforces the idea that they can extend the routine. And toddlers are smart. They learn quickly that asking for things delays bedtime. Third, long routines often include too much parental involvement. And I'm not saying you shouldn't spend time with your toddler. I'm saying that if your routine requires you to stay in the room for 45 minutes, you're creating a dependency. Your toddler learns they need you there to fall asleep, and that makes independent sleep harder. Research from the Mindell Lab at St. Joseph's University studied over 10,000 families. And what they found was that families with shorter, more consistent routines had toddlers who fell asleep faster, slept longer, and had fewer night wakings. The sweet spot? 20 to 25 minutes. Start to finish. Same activities, same order, same duration, every single night. Now here's where this gets really important. The third thing researchers know: the last activity in your routine should be the least stimulating. Think about your current routine. What's the last thing you do before your toddler goes to bed? For a lot of parents, it's books, and books seem perfect, right? They're calm, they're quiet, they're together time. But here's what researchers have discovered. Books, especially engaging books with bright pictures and exciting stories, can actually be too stimulating right before sleep. Your toddler's brain lights up with the story. They get invested in the characters. They want to talk about what's happening. And all of that brain activity works against the calm-down process their body needs. The same thing happens with songs, especially upbeat or interactive songs. If you're singing the wheels on the bus right before bed, you're stimulating your toddler's brain when you should be helping it wind down. So, what should the last activity be? Something repetitive, boring, and physically calming. The research points to things like gentle back rubs with no talking, listening to white noise or very soft music, lying quietly in dim light, or simple breathing exercises adapted for toddlers. I know this sounds boring. I know you want that special bedtime story moment, and you can have it. Just don't make it the last thing you do. Put books earlier in the routine, after bath maybe, or right after pajamas. Then after books, move to something deeply unstimulating, something that signals to your toddler's brain. We're done with the fun part. Now we're just being quiet and still. One study from the Journal of Sleep Research tracked toddlers whose bedtime routines ended with books versus toddlers whose routines ended with quiet time. The quiet time group fell asleep an average of 12 minutes faster. 12 minutes. Every single night. That's over an hour a week. That's 4 hours a month. That's enormous. And here's what's wild about this. Most parents have never heard this. Most sleep advice tells you to read books before bed. And books are great. They're just in the wrong spot in the sequence. So let me show you what this looks like when you put it all together. Here's exactly what I want you to do, starting tomorrow night. First, identify your toddler's actual sleep window. For the next 3 nights, notice what time your toddler actually falls asleep, not when you start the routine, but when they're genuinely asleep. Write it down each night. Most toddlers fall asleep between 8 and 9 p.m. If your toddler consistently falls asleep at 8:45, their biological sleep window is probably around 8:30. That's when their body starts producing melatonin. Second, once you know their sleep window, you're going to reverse engineer your routine to end right as they hit that window. If their sleep window is 8:30 and your routine is 20 minutes long, you start at 8:10, not 7:30, not 7. 8:10. I know this feels late. I know you've been told toddlers need early bedtimes, but if your toddler's biology says 8:30, fighting that with a 7 p.m. bedtime is just making everyone miserable. Third, you're going to streamline your routine to exactly 20 minutes. Set a timer if you need to. Here's what 20 minutes looks like. 5 minutes for bath or face washing and teeth brushing. 10 minutes for pajamas and books. 5 minutes for the wind down activity. That's it. No extra stories. No negotiations. No one more thing. 20 minutes. Same activities, same order, every night. Fourth, you're going to move books to the middle of your routine, not the end. After pajamas, you read 2 books. Same 2 books every night, or rotate through a small collection. But when those books are done, you're done with books. Then you move to the final wind down. This is 5 minutes of deeply boring, physically calming activity. You can lie next to your toddler in dim light and do nothing. You can gently rub their back. You can play white noise. But you're not talking, not singing, not doing anything stimulating. At the end of those 5 minutes, you say goodnight and leave. Even if they're not fully asleep yet, you're putting them down at the end of their sleep window, not at the beginning. Their body is ready. Here's what's going to happen. Night 1 might be bumpy because this is different from what they're used to. They might call for you. They might get out of bed. Stay calm. Be consistent. Bring them back to bed without engaging too much. Night 2. You'll notice they settle faster. The routine feels smoother. They're less resistant because you're working with their biology instead of against it. Night 3. This is usually when parents message me and say they can't believe the difference. Your toddler goes down easier. The routine actually takes 20 minutes instead of stretching to an hour. And you get your evening back. Within a week, you should have a toddler who cooperates with bedtime, who doesn't fight every step, who actually seems tired when you put them down, because you're finally aligning your routine with their biological readiness for sleep. You're going to know this is working when your toddler stops asking for one more thing, when they settle into bed without resistance, when bedtime goes from a 2-hour battle to a 20-minute routine that actually ends with your child falling asleep. So let's bring this together. Your bedtime routine has been failing not because you're doing it wrong, but because you've been missing 3 critical pieces. You've been starting before your toddler's sleep window opens. You've been making the routine too long, which overshoots the window and creates dependency. And you've been ending with stimulating activities instead of calming ones. None of this is your fault. The standard advice doesn't explain these things. You've been following the rules everyone gives you. You've been consistent, patient, loving. You've done everything right with the information you had, but now you know better, and that changes everything. I know this feels different from what you've been doing. I know later bedtimes seem counterintuitive. I know shorter routines feel like you're missing out on connection time. But here's the thing. Fighting with your toddler for an hour every night isn't quality time. It's exhausting for both of you. A 20-minute routine where your toddler is cooperative and calm and ready for sleep, that's better for everyone, and you'll have more quality time during the day when you're not completely depleted from bedtime battles. So here's what I want you to do tonight, just tonight. Don't change everything yet, just observe. Notice what time your toddler actually falls asleep. Write it down. That's your starting point. Tomorrow night, you'll adjust the timing. The night after that, you'll streamline the routine. And by this time next week, bedtime is going to feel completely different. You're going to walk into your toddler's room at 8:10 instead of 7. You're going to do a simple, short routine. You're going to end with something calm and boring, and your toddler is going to go to sleep without the usual fight. Because you're finally working with their biology instead of against it. Your toddler doesn't need a perfect routine. They don't need elaborate rituals or expensive sleep programs. They need a routine that matches their natural sleep window. They need it to be short enough that it doesn't overshoot that window, and they need it to end with true calm, not stimulation disguised as connection. And now you know how to give them that. If this helped, hit the like button and subscribe because I'm making more videos on toddler sleep, behavior, development, and all the things that keep parents up at night, all backed by research, all delivered with compassion. Drop. I'm trying this tonight in the comments, so other exhausted parents know they're not alone. Bedtime doesn't have to be a battle. You don't have to spend 2 hours every night fighting your toddler to sleep. And starting tomorrow night, you won't. You've got this.